as a brilliant woman, what inspired you to join Bold and Visible?
Quite honestly, I was really sick of myself. Like when I think about it, I was just so fed up. I felt like I had done everything and I just couldn't get out of my own way. And I was honestly flipping through Facebook and the ad popped up and something about it. I listened to my intuition and booked a call to speak to you. Um, and I just decided like, I'm not going to overthink this. There's some reason why I'm being called to this. But really it was because I was in a phase of like, just tired of uh, feeling stuck and like in this place of suffering from a lack of fully realizing all of my potential.
Right. So interesting, right? I mean, it's incredibly painful to be in that place. I mean, what have you done? You've done so much, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I had this long career, what I consider a relatively long career in law, where I was booked offender in domestic violence court, worked in private law firms, then had this dream job at the NCAA, where I was touring the country, educating all the membership schools on the different bylaws and how they play off of each other and stuff like this, where I loved it. It was like my dream job. But at the same time, even in all the success, it was super painful. It was so much effort. I felt uncomfortable all the time, despite ever getting promoted quickly through several levels within the company. I always felt like, what are these people talking about? I'm not good at this. And even though I was having all the success in it, so it was like I couldn't really feel at home in myself and in my successes.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I would do things like, okay, back away or quit, or, I decided to stay home with my kids all of a sudden, which don't know. I just decided that's what I needed to do that day. And then immediately upon doing that, went to work on my own private practice and law and did a million other things in those kind of ways, all of which just leading, like I felt like I was a turtle almost, where I'd push my head out. And then the minute I became visible, I would retract in like a visibility hangover, where I was like, I can't, or the minute that somebody recognized my efforts or my strength, then I would like retract.
Right.
And it was just a lot of this. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, why can't I own any of the stuff that I'm good at? Why can't I own my strengths, my skills, my successes? And why do I always feel like running away from myself when I'm actually making some ground, like making some, traction in something?
Wow. I mean, I'm sure everyone can relate to what you're saying. This sort of inching out, the dabbling, foot on the gas, foot on the brake kind of feeling, right? As soon as we get out there, it's like, we're coming.
And then even in my own coaching business, I had all these clients initially, like they were falling out of the sky. And I'm like, I just literally started doing this. And then I immediately shut it all down. I just couldn't feel safe.
Right.
In all of it. And so I would like, I don't understand. It doesn't make sense. I don't know why they would come to me. I don't know, all of this that you do in your head.
Right. And I remember, if you don't mind me sharing that when we talked, and this is we're talking about building that platform of somatic safety to take the larger risks in our life. Like, it's kind of confusing because I know that you're kick-ass. And no, really, and so lovely, and we have it all. So why are we not stepping forward, right? And so I remember when you came to me and you're like, "Oh, maybe I should just go back to the NCAA, and right, I could be an attorney." And sure, actually, that's true.
It is. I could totally do it. We could do like honestly, we can all think of 10 things we could just do to be doing it, right? Like, of course, I could go back and do that. And it would make perfect sense to go back and do that. Only I would continue to feel like I feel right now doing that, like at that time, right? Like I would continue in that stuck pattern unless I did the things that I needed to do.
Right. And this is
care of myself. Yeah.
So true. And I mean, like, I feel it's because like we have such a bigger calling and the thing is so much riskier. And that's why it's so hard for us to step out. And we work with that in our work, the underpinnings of why we're not getting that 5%. But Like, tell me a little bit about, I love what the women to hear a little bit more about what you were stepping into this trauma recovery coaching, and you have a space there that really, I know we're glitching a bit, we're just going to keep going, a space that's really yours to own. And yet, what?
Well, I think some of this started for me when I was in a yoga class, and the part of the thing at the end where you're in your own zone, and they were talking about daydreaming. And I remember thinking, I can't tell you the last time I held a dream of my own in my hands, like, and really visualize something for myself. It was all just me reacting to all of what was going on in my life all the time. And I remember thinking, God, the last time that I really held a dream, everything that I had dreamed up to a certain point came true. And then all the dreaming stopped. And it was because of a traumatic event. And I was able to kind of put all of those things, kind of connect those dots when somebody was asking me about daydreaming. I hadn't really thought about it before that. Why is it? Then, even though I had done a lot of work in a lot of different ways to recover from the traumatic events, I still couldn't do this last piece. And so then, my desire to help other people in this area grew immensely, because I'm like, I can't be the only one that can't get, even though they logically know what's happened and they've put all the dots together and they understand, it made perfect sense that they were the way they were as a result of X, Y, and Z, can't go this last stretch. And so I really decided to kind of go all in on that. And then at the same time was feeling like I'm not there all the way myself.
Right.
So how do I help people? And so then have committed to getting myself there so that I can really help everyone else too.
So amazing. And you were like that, everybody, Missy is the absolute right person to be doing this work. And you're going to hear more about that when you hear her story come out into the world. Couldn't be a more well-positioned woman to be able to take women through trauma recovery, or all people.
Mm-hmm.
And even being that well-positioned and being, a skilled attorney and being an elite athlete, we can still be held back. This is how interesting this all is. Would you be willing to share just, what shift, what were you surprised about? Like, what's the shift that, inside of our body of work that we worked on? It's kind of surprising, right? What holds us back? What was your shift? What do you feel your shift was inside of that?
This might sound crazy, but it's around responsibility for myself. It was like I've always felt responsible for so much, but I was responsible for the wrong set of things. So I feel more responsibility with my conscious choices in my own life, and less responsibility for all the things that are not mine to carry. And so for me, the biggest change, it's not really any more work, any more responsibility that I've taken on. It's less burdensome responsibility. There's so much freedom in letting all these other things go, and really focusing on how I can consciously choose for myself in integrity and in full authenticity of what I want for me, and in creating my life for me.
I love that. And I always say it's not an intellectual practice. It's so funny because we try to talk about it, but it's the work that we do is not in that space of mindset and belief system and stuff, because we've done all that, right? What was one thing you let go from your body, you feel? A pattern, or one of the things was underpinning everything else?
I think I'm probably pretty animated and make a lot of facial expressions, and probably come out like probably tended to front with humor, or and I just feel more calm, maybe. I don't know, but I never noticed that I wasn't calm before. It's almost like only now do I realize that I wasn't feeling calm in my body.
Yeah.
But maybe that, or I don't feel so responsible to I'm not so worried about what everybody else's experience is of me. I'm just more grounded in being in my own experience of myself. Yeah.
Yeah. I just love how you're moving forward in this more settled Because when you came in, there was a lot going on and this more settled, oh, I can do this way, right?
Well, and when we talk, like talking about that, like it's just really interesting how the transformation is so specific and universal. Like some people, specific at the same time, but also so universal. Like some people in our group became more grounded and more steady, and some people were freed up to move. And
Right.
then some people like left kind of their fragileness or their daintiness and came into kind of their power. And some people like me probably let go a little bit of the command, commanding energy, and relaxed into a little bit more calmness. It's just really interesting how it's all the same thing in the universal, but very specific in each person's transformation of it.
I love how you shared that. Yeah, it's really fun to watch the other women in their own unique somatic shifts.
And I would really say watching other people in the journey is also what allowed me to recognize it in myself. I don't know if I was doing it by myself, if I really would have understood that that's also what's happening for me too. And when you watch somebody else talk about what they're feeling, and then they're generating that experience, that is the reality they're experiencing based on the stuff in their brain. When you see it play out for somebody else, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I'm doing that too.
Right.
And yeah, it's just easier to recognize sometimes, I think, through other people.
Absolutely. The co-creation, the co-witnessing is so important. I just find you've dropped into your feminine in such a beautiful way. There's this way that you hold it all, which is really great. Well, what does it mean for you though, in terms of stepping forward with more ease and actually taking your next steps? You're taking next steps?
Yeah, well, one of the interesting things is I've recently just decided to do something that before I had tried to do and started and stopped and started and stopped. And I think I had the same apprehension, but I'm not stopping this time. And so I think that's a really different, like it still feels like exciting or anxious, but it's not paralyzing me. I'm
Right.
finding a way to continue to move through it and feel safe moving through it. And it's actually becoming more exciting to do it as a result, because so many times in the past it would paralyze me to just stopping.
Right. And how
Yeah.
much, like I have been so many times in my life, this is why I do this work, so many times stuck in that paralysis and that confusion of why, what, and I don't want to live, I don't have another decade to not do what I'm here to do and not do what I want to do, right?
Right. It's so frustrating to be like, I can see this vision for myself and I hold this dream, and I know I hold it because it's meant for me, because you and I don't have the same dream. Like, right? Like it's the dream that you have for yourself. And you're like, I was encoded with this because it's meant for me. And then when I can't get out of my way to do it. And it doesn't feel safe, or it doesn't, I can't figure out a way to it. That's so frustrating. And then to be able to kind of step your way through that it's liberating. Like you just feel like, okay, really, I can create this reality that I see for myself. It is possible.
And we can do it while being comfortable in our own skin.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like, and releasing the shame or whatever else is underneath it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we deserve to live our life joyfully and comfortably. And
Yes.
it's right. So I love that. I love that. And, we're here to do the big thing. And it's been we're ready to do it. We're ready. What would you say, Missy, to a woman who might be interested in coming out and trying on the work or learning more about it?
I would say you have nothing to lose and so much to gain, right? Like there's, if you're feeling the way that I was feeling, there isn't a reason not to try it and to do it. Because when you can set aside the things that are in your way and like stop carrying all the luggage of the shame and the doubt and all the stuff, it's just so much easier. It's like more in flow, and you're like, why have I been working so hard? Why didn't I find this sooner? Yeah.
Right. I want to ask you one last question, and then I want to ask you a question just about your own journey, okay, about your life and what a message you'd like to leave from your life. Because in your life, I mean, you were a young elite athlete.
Mhm.
You've been inducted into the Indiana Swimming Hall of Fame. You've been in sport. Sports are really challenging milieu to be inside of. You've been an incredible attorney inside of the NCAA. I mean, you're a mother and a wife. You have a right, but I'd love to hear about a message from the space of your transformation. But what surprises you now? What surprised you about what's absolute? What's available for you?
Okay. It's that it's when you're healed or transformed, it's so much easier. Like it just, like you always think it's possible or you wouldn't be trying to do it. But when you actually can let go of some of the stuff, it's like, oh, it's possible. All the things, all the platitudes, all the trying to keep going. You're like, this is why they write those, because this is
Right.
actual truth, right? Anything I imagine I can create, anything I can do, all those things, you're like, oh, these are why these exist. So when you can like let down all the, trauma from your past or your shame or whatever it is that you're in your luggage to carry, when you can set it down, it's even easier than you think it's going to be.
Oh my gosh. Isn't it like, don't you? Okay. This is the crazy part. It's more energy, more challenging to hold on to that in the body, right? And hold on to it in our life and our identity and all of that. It's more work. It's exhausting. I remember what you said, Missy. Tell me one thing about resistance, though. I want to say what you said because it was brilliant. I always remember it. Okay. This is a quote that I'm going to put on my website. It's going to say Missy McCraken.
I know which one.
Right? Okay.
I can just sit here and argue for my own suffering.
Right.
That's the one you're talking about. Yeah. Like my resistance was so strong to some of the things. And I was like, what am I doing? Like I'm creating all the arguments not to do this. And that is in a way just arguing to stay stuck in my own suffering and to be here in this place that I absolutely hate being. Why am I trying to stay in the place I hate being?
Actually, what we're doing in this work is just surrendering all the somatic adaptive responses, the brilliant survival responses that are keeping us. And we're just dropping into who we are. Like Missy, you're just more you. I didn't do anything for you except for allow you the space to learn how to release, right? You're just more you.
Well, and I think probably the truest thing in our conversations about transformation is when I heard you say the bit about like, you're not any different. It's just more of you. And it's letting go. You didn't take on anything new. You let go of parts that weren't you. And that feels very true to me. I feel like this has always been who I am.
Right.
And I knew this was always who I was. I just couldn't figure out how to let the real me out into the world.
Right. Right. I love it. And you guys, Missy had some resistance. It was awesome. But like, because the work is not easy. So it's not going to be easy if it's the real thing, right? If we're really having to face the thing and let it go from our whole being and including our nervous system, it's tough. But you stepped into it so like committed. Missy, the commitment that you gave to the work and who you are keeps unfolding and unfolding. We keep getting to meet Missy. I haven't seen Missy for a couple of weeks. And so every time I see you, I feel like, oh, wow, right? Who you've always been is showing up. What would you like to share with women about your life? One lesson that you've learned through your journey in your life from.
I think the most important thing that I can share is that if you don't take the time to really heal yourself or like self-love, like some people think it's like doing the fun things like manicures and pedicures, and self-love is really like prioritizing your own emotional, psychological, physical safety and your growth or your progression or your ability to succeed can only expand at the rate of safety within your system. And so if you're not taking the time to heal what's going on inside of you and to be in full love and self-acceptance, then you're almost working against yourself your whole time. And at the same time, it makes perfect sense what you were doing prior to this, right? Like of course I was being this other version of me. I needed to be to survive in the world, right? And so then when you can let that go, like it's just like, I wish this was available to me immediately after this happened. So I didn't have to do all this other stuff that then created a bunch of confusion for me and how I want to operate in my life. I don't know, like that it's available. It's available and that you can change and you can let it go and you can come more fully into yourself. And like, it's there to people.
Amazing, amazing. And oftentimes, women like ourselves, we have to do a little last bit of our own transformation to really help the others step fully into theirs. And Missy, it's so cool to see you drop totally in. I mean, you're an undeniable presence, and I can't wait for your story to come out onto our stage, because your story is so important to the world, and it's what others are going to see themselves inside of, right? So important.
The other really cool thing is that I'm realizing in all of this that it's all a progression.
Yes.
There is no arrival. It's like every time that we have a conversation, every time I talk about what I do or my story or what I've done to get here, I'm realizing that in a year from now, I'll be even more progressed and this will look stunted compared to that. And so that it's never, so don't wait. I guess what I want people to know is don't wait. It's not there is no arriving. Just get busy doing the progress, start your journey and let yourself progress and keep evolving along with the progression.
Yeah, absolutely. Now is the time, right? We don't have another decade, and the littlest steps get us somewhere versus being overwhelmed by the thing that we never take action on. And I mean, this is it. We've been so stuck, right? And how do we, and just taking the action to do the thing. Thank you so much, Missy. It's been an incredible.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, yeah, right. It's like, it's life-changing or whatever. Like, I know that sounds like something flippant to say, but it really does change your life if you're no longer doing the things that you were doing before, You
don't look the same either. We look so much more relaxed. And actually for some of us, we just look younger. We're more healthier. Our posture's back. We just look more feminine. And there's benefits on that side too. There's benefits on the relational side and all of it. Yes. So we are having our 2-hour online voice experience called Unleash Your Voice. It's a place where women who are highly accomplished and ready to get out there and do the next thing, and they maybe felt stuck and don't know why and are ready to maybe give up, but they're able to come in and get a real sense of their own voice, a taste of it, and a taste of what freedom might actually feel like in a deeply somatic way, right? Because we can think of freedom and put the, whatever the affirmations on our fridge and create the vision board, but that's all intellectual. And so we want to get a sense of what is like the full Callie actually feel like. What's the full Missy actually feel like? And once you get a taste of that, you're like, whoa, I want that. It already is you. It already is you. And we're just in a space to let it co-witness and release.